The alarm shrieked through the corridors of the stellar Voyager at exactly 0400 hours, which was, coincidentally, the absolute worst time for anyone to be awake. Commander Vex'thal bolted upright in his sleep pod, his 4 eyes snapping open in sequence like a row of panicked flashlights. The security console on his wall flashed angry crimson, and the automated voice that haunted his nightmares droned its message with all the urgency of a caffeinated robot. Warning. Predator detected. Deck 7. Galley section. Warning. Predator detected. Oh, fantastic, Vex'thal muttered, his mandibles clicking in irritation. Just fantastic. He scrambled into his uniform, which was significantly harder when you had 6 limbs and exactly 0 patience. 3 months. They had gone 3 peaceful months without a single incident, and now this. A predator. On board. In the galley, of all places. The thing about space travel that nobody tells you in the recruitment brochures is that it is incredibly, stupendously boring, right up until the moment it becomes absolutely terrifying. There is no middle ground. You are either filing reports about oxygen recycling efficiency or running for your life from something with too many teeth. Vex'thal's communicator buzzed. It was Lieutenant Cora, his second in command, and she sounded about as thrilled as someone who had just discovered mold in their breakfast paste. Commander, we have a situation. Yes, I gathered that from the screaming alarm, Vex'thal said, sprinting down the corridor. His footsteps echoed like a drummer having a nervous breakdown. What are we dealing with? Escaped specimen? Stowaway? Dimensional breach? Unknown, sir. The sensors registered massive predatory biomarkers. Elevated adrenaline levels, aggressive pheromones, rapid movement patterns. Whatever it is in hunting mode. Vex'thal felt his internal organs rearrange themselves into uncomfortable positions. Hunting mode. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He rounded the corner to find half the security team already assembled outside the galley doors, weapons drawn, looking like a group of students who had shown up for an exam they had forgotten to study for. Cora stood at the front, her scales shifting through nervous shades of blue and green. Status report, Vex'thal demanded. The doors are sealed. We have not attempted entry yet. The predator is still inside. Any visual? Negative. The cameras are, well, they are working, but what we are seeing does not make sense. Vex'thal pushed past her to the monitor. The screen showed the galley interior, and there, standing at the prep station, was the human. Marcus Finley. Their chef. He was holding a knife. A very large knife, and he was, singing. That is the predator? Vex'thal asked, his voice climbing several octaves. Affirmative. The sensors are going absolutely berserk. Look at these readings. The biometric scanner displayed numbers that would have made a Vorthian war beast look like a cuddly pet. Adrenaline levels through the roof. Pheromone markers screaming danger. Body language that the computer interpreted as imminent violence. On screen, Marcus raised the knife high and brought it down with frightening precision. Again. And again. The wet thump of metal hitting flesh echoed through the audio feed. By the 7 moons, someone whispered. He is killing something. We need to stop him, another guard shouted. Wait, Vex'thal said, holding up one hand. Everyone, just, wait. He leaned closer to the screen. Marcus was moving with the kind of efficiency that came from years of practice, his movements fluid and controlled. The knife flashed. Something red sprayed across the cutting board. And he was still singing, some kind of human tune about broken hearts and highways. Is that? Cora squinted at the screen. Is that a vegetable? Vex'thal zoomed in. There, on the cutting board, lay the remains of what appeared to be several large, red earth vegetables. Tomatoes, if he remembered correctly. And next to them, a pile of dismembered onions, their layers separated with surgical precision. He is cooking, Vex'thal said flatly. Cooking? Cora repeated. Cooking. The security team exchanged glances that ranged from confused to embarrassed to still mildly terrified. But the sensors, one guard protested. The predatory markers are apparently what humans look like when they make breakfast, Vex'thal finished. On screen, Marcus grabbed what looked like a dead bird, and several guards gasped. He slammed it onto the counter with enough force to make the camera shake, then proceeded to attack it with the knife in a series of movements that looked less like cooking and more like a martial arts demonstration. Should we tell him to stop? Cora asked weakly. And explain what, exactly? That our supposedly advanced sensors cannot tell the difference between a chef and a mass murderer? Marcus reached for something off-screen and returned with a hammer. An actual hammer. Oh no, someone whined. The human raised the hammer and brought it down on something with a crack that echoed through the speakers. The guards flinched collectively. He is tenderizing meat, Vex'thal said, rubbing his temples. It is a cooking technique. Humans pound their protein to make it softer. That seems unnecessarily violent, Cora observed. Welcome to human cuisine. As they watched, Marcus moved to the stove, where several pans began heating. Flames leapt up as he added oil, and the temperature sensors screamed warnings about combustion risks. The human, completely unfazed, tossed ingredients into the inferno with the casual confidence of someone who regularly played with fire, which, Vex'thal realized, was exactly what cooking was. The alarm continued its incessant wailing. Turn that off, Vex'thal ordered. The sudden silence was almost as jarring as the noise had been. Marcus finally noticed the camera's blinking light and looked up, waving his knife in greeting. His face split into a wide grin, completely oblivious to the armed security team having a collective anxiety attack outside his door. Commander, you are up early, he called cheerfully, somehow aware they were watching. Hungry? I am making my grandmother's special breakfast casserole. Should be ready in 20 minutes. Vex'thal activated the intercom with a trembling hand. Marcus, we need to discuss your morning routine. Sure thing, boss. Come on in. I just need to finish breaking down this chicken. Breaking down. The human said breaking down like it was a normal thing to say. Perhaps we should wait until you are finished, Vex'thal suggested diplomatically. Suit yourself. Marcus grabbed another knife, this one even larger than the first, and began separating joints with anatomical precision that suggested intimate knowledge of skeletal structures. Hey, did something trigger the alarm earlier? I heard it go off but figured it was another drill. The security team stared at their commander. Vex'thal stared back. Nobody wanted to be the one to explain this. False alarm, Vex'thal lied smoothly. Equipment malfunction. Nothing to worry about. Cool, cool. Technology, right? Always acting up when you least expect it. On screen, Marcus moved through the galley like a choreographed dancer who had trained extensively in weapons handling. He chopped, he diced, he julienned. Vegetables fell apart under his blade like enemy soldiers. A clove of garlic met its end with a single, brutal smash from the flat of his knife. Question, Cora whispered. Do all humans cook like they are preparing for battle? Apparently, Vex'thal replied. I am beginning to understand why Earth cuisine is considered an extreme sport in some sectors. Sir, we should probably recalibrate the sensors. You think? Marcus had moved on to something called bacon, which he explained cheerfully. Into the empty air involved taking strips of preserved pig belly and exposing them to intense heat until they reached optimal crispiness. The entire process sounded like a science experiment gone wrong, but the smell wafting through the ventilation system was, admittedly, incredible. Several guards' stomachs growled audibly. Is anyone else suddenly hungry? Someone asked. Do not be ridiculous, Cora said, even as her own digestive system made curious noises. We are security professionals responding to a potential threat, not dinner guests. Former potential threat, another guard corrected. Current breakfast opportunity. Vex'thal pinched the bridge of his nose, which was difficult since he did not technically have a nose, but the gesture felt appropriate. Everyone back to your stations. Crisis averted. If anyone asks, we responded swiftly to a sensor glitch and resolved it professionally. And the report, sir? We'll say that we investigated unusual readings and determined them to be non-threatening culinary activities. That sounds much better than we panicked because the human was making eggs. Precisely. The team began dispersing, though several lingered hopefully near the galley doors. The smell of cooking food had intensified to levels that bypassed rational thought and spoke directly to primitive hunger centers in the brain. Marcus appeared at the door, now mercifully knife-free, holding a plate piled high with something golden and steaming. Hey, since you are all here anyway, want to try some? I made extra. Vex'thal accepted the plate with as much dignity as he could muster, which was not much. The food looked amazing. It smelled better. His mouth, all three of them, began watering simultaneously. Thank you, Marcus. This is very generous. No problem. Sorry if I scared anyone. I know I get a bit intense in the kitchen. My instructor at culinary school used to say I cooked like I was fighting a war. How accurate, Vex'thal managed. He took a bite. The flavors exploded across his taste receptors like a supernova of deliciousness. Sweet, savory, rich, perfectly balanced. This was food that justified every terrifying moment of the last 30 minutes. Good? Marcus asked hopefully. Outstanding, Vex'thal admitted, already reaching for another bite. Though perhaps tomorrow you could cook with slightly less enthusiasm? Marcus laughed, a booming sound that probably also registered as a threat on the sensors. I will try, Commander. No promises though. When you love what you do, you really commit, you know? I am beginning to understand that about humans. As Vex'thal walked back to his quarters, plate in hand, he made a mental note to have engineering completely overhaul the security sensors. Also, to never, ever schedule morning meetings before Marcus finished breakfast preparation. Some threats were real. Others just smelled really, really good. Behind him, the rest of the security team had abandoned all pretense of professionalism and formed an orderly line at the galley door, weapons holstered, stomachs growling, ready to face the most dangerous predator on board. A human with a kitchen and a passion for cooking, and honestly, Vex'thal thought, taking another magnificent bite, there were worse ways to start the day. The stellar Voyager sailed on through the cosmos, its crew well fed, its sensors thoroughly confused, and its human chef blissfully unaware that he had just given an entire security team the scare of their lives, armed with nothing more than proper knife skills and his grandmother's recipes.